This evening we want to look at Jeremiah chapter 1. And in chapter 1, we see Yahweh introducing us to Jeremiah, calling Jeremiah, telling Jeremiah what he must do. Now, in chapter 1, we got the picture of what the book of Jeremiah is all about. The book of Jeremiah is to let us know that Yahweh was about to judge his people. Yahweh was also promising his people restoration. Even after he will judge them, at the end he will call them back to restore them. Jeremiah's call as Yahweh's messenger and his first visions is seen in chapter 1, 1 to 19. Now, the highlight of his call is seen from the response of Jeremiah. Jeremiah, come. I want to send you to my people. I want to send you to Israel, Judah, so that you will deliver my message exactly as I give it to you. But as you will do that, you may be afraid. Do not fear. So Yahweh allays that fear, make sure that Jeremiah will not stand in the position where he will be afraid of anybody in delivering his message. But Jeremiah said, no, I'm too young for you to use me. I'm not competent to do it. I'm not competent to send your message to Israel, to Judah, just like Moses told Yahweh. I'm not qualified. Moses did everything to, make Yahweh understand his condition. In fact, he reminded Yahweh that he was a stammerer. Yahweh also reminded him who made or who created him. The mouth he had, who gave it to him, everything in him, who is the owner. So he was not able to escape it. So the same thing Jeremiah tried to present to Yahweh, tried to let Yahweh know that he is that so young, he can't do anything about that. But Yahweh said, no, I have prepared you while you were in your mother's womb. I've made you ready for this assignment. Now, in chapter 1, we see Jeremiah's call. We see the fear of Jeremiah. We see at the end how Yahweh, allayed his fears, brought him in, anointed him, and handed him his duty. And we saw the beginning of his work, which was the first and second vision. So in a way, this is just the summary of the chapter 1. Then in that chapter 1, it reveals Yahweh's judgment and Yahweh's restoration of his people at the end of the day. Now let's look at verses 1 to 3, talk about the kings, which we looked at last week. The kings that ruled them, like Jehoiakim, son of Josiah. We saw Zedekiah. All these were kings that had no faith in Yahweh. But Josiah himself, who was the father of Jehoiakim, was a man who feared Yahweh, who through his authority as the king, led Israel to embrace the book, the Torah, the instruction given to Israel. He called them back to it, and they learned a lot. So during his lifetime, the tribe of Judah followed Josiah, listened to the word of Yahweh, and followed the instruction. They kept the Sabbath, they kept the feast, the temple was kept holy. There was no idol. They never brought the idols of Babylon or other nations into the temple. Because all through the warnings that we see in the scriptures throughout, particularly in the Old Testament, it was all the way the case of Israelites bringing idol in the temple of Yahweh. No wonder when Yeshua came, he began his ministry. Towards the end of his ministry, he told them that temple will go down. That temple will fall. Because you can't combine worshiping of Yahweh and the idol at the same time. It's syncretism. Yahweh don't tolerate that. Yahweh will not allow his glory to be shared, or that he will share his glory with another. He can't. So Yeshua made it clear that the temple was going to be destroyed because primarily they were using it for the Baal. Now, from verse 4 here, we see the message, what the message was all about. Verse 5, I knew you before I formed you in your mother's womb. That was when Jeremiah was saying, I'm not fit to, I can't go. I'm just that young. Then Yahweh here began to remind him of who he is. Jeremiah don't even know who he was. He didn't even understand himself. Yahweh knew him before he entered his mother's womb. While he was in his mother's womb, Yahweh knew him. Just like all of us. At times we think we cannot do the work of Yahweh. And Yahweh may have laid it into our heart. This is what you are to do. But we keep on struggling. But Yahweh, who has called us, knew us before we were even born. So Yahweh now was here telling him who he was. That's Jeremiah. He said, I knew you before I formed you in your mother's womb. Before you were born, I set you apart and appointed you as my prophet to the nations. Not just prophet to Israel or Judah, but to nations. In chapter 4, we're going to see how Yahweh said, Israel, return back to me. Judah, come back to me, so that I will prepare you to lead nations. Yahweh appointed Israel as his first fruit to prepare nations, so that the entire world will return back to Yahweh. But unfortunately, the more he called them, the more they struggled, the more they, slack, and the more they sinned. Verse 6, oh, sovereign Yahweh, I said, I can't speak for you. I'm too young. Continue to make the excuse. Yahweh replied, don't say, I am too young, for you must go wherever I send you and say whatever I tell you. You see, here, Yahweh is saying, you must go. You have been called. You must adhere to this call. That is something, information he was given, maybe that quieted him. Verse 8 there. And don't be afraid of the people. That is another charge here, because Yahweh saw that the young man was thinking he was too young to confront the elders, too young to confront the leaders of the tribe of Judah, too young to speak to nations, too young to speak to the kings. Because the appointment of Jeremiah and even other prophets is not just to speak to one person or two persons or the community or the nation of Israel, but he was to speak to kings, even globally. And don't be afraid of the people, for I will be with you and will protect you. I, Yahweh, have spoken. Then Yahweh reached out and touched my mouth and said, look, I have put my words in your mouth. Today, I appoint you to stand against nations and kingdoms. Some you must uproot and tear down, destroy and overthrow. Others you must build up and plant. Now, information that is given here, particularly verses 9, 10, presents to us the duties. Yahweh had called Jeremiah, whether he liked it or not, he will go. He must go. He must deliver the message. Now, the assignment was given. And in that assignment, we see that he will go to Judah, he will speak to Judah, he will speak to Israel, he will speak to nations and kingdoms of the earth. Now, the first 4 duties that he was given are what he's going to say, what he's going to preach, whether it is by warning, whether it is by charge. Those 4 duties contain judgment. They are all about judgment. Uproot, he will uproot by the word of Yahweh in his mouth. He will uproot some of the nations. He will tear them down. Number 3, he will destroy. And number 4, he will overthrow. Yahweh said, by his word he put in his mouth. Now, every child of Yahweh, whether you're a prophet, whether you're a pastor, whether you're a priest, whether you're an evangelist, whether you're a teacher, as far as Yahweh call you and ordain you, anoint you, and put his word in your mouth, whatever you say with your mouth suffices. Whatever you speak from your mouth is authority, is the command of Yahweh, and so will it come to pass. And that's why Yahweh says, with his mouth he will uproot, with his mouth he will tear down, with his mouth he will destroy, with his mouth he will overthrow nations, people. Where did we hear this? Let us go to Revelation chapter 11. In these latter days, it's going to happen. Book of Joel said that Yahweh is going to pour his spirit upon his people in these latter days. Now, part of it is the 2 witnesses we see in Revelation 11, where we are told what is going to happen, how they are going to use the power of Yahweh to display wonders, to do some actions or acts that Yahweh will empower them to do. Let's read from verse 4. These 2 prophets are the 2 olive trees and the 2 lampstands that stand before Yahweh of all the earth. If anyone tries to harm them, fire flashes from their mouths and consumes their enemies. This is how anyone who tries to harm them must die. They have power to shut the sky so that no rain will fall for as long as they prophesy. And they have the power to turn the rivers and oceans into blood and to strike the earth with every kind of plague as often as they wish. Where else did we see this? In Egypt, when Yahweh was about to judge Egypt, Yahweh used Moses and Aaron. Whatever Moses said was authority, was command, filled with the power of Yahweh. In the word that Yahweh put in his mouth, when he speaks, it happens so. Anyone that Yahweh appoints, anyone that Yahweh ordains, anoints, anyone that Yahweh calls to carry out his assignment, carry out his duty, Yahweh anoints the person. Yahweh authorizes his word to act. So whatever the person does, the person must be doing it in the name and the power of Yahweh. So Yahweh says, I'm going to give you my power. I'm going to give you my rod, my staff of office. You're going to use this staff of office to deal with nations, to deal with the tribe of Judah, and to subdue them, uproot them, tear them down, destroy, overthrow. That is judgment. That is judgment. That is where we begin to see what type of call Jeremiah was into. Again, another type of call we see, or empowerment in his call, is the two next assignments in his duty. We have seen the four of the duties. The fifth and the sixth is the one that says, others you must build up and plant. So Jeremiah is not going to cast entire Judah away and destroy them. No. But certain amongst them he will build up, and some of them also will be planted. The same will be, what will obtain amongst nations. Some of the nations, by virtue of the word he's going to pronounce, they will receive life. So this second aspect of his duties is talking about restoration, whereby he talk about speaking to them so that they will be built, they will be resurrected, they will be brought up out of their ruins, and they will be planted. So planting also will be aspect of what he is going to do. We see this in certain areas where Jeremiah prayed. There were some areas some chapters we are going to meet, Jeremiah prayed. And there were some chapters that Jeremiah prayed for Yahweh's favor for his people, for Yahweh's restoration to his people. And some areas we see where Jeremiah asked Yahweh to destroy them. So what Yahweh said to him was what he did along the line. We see certain places where Jeremiah was weeping. In fact, they even called him a weeping prophet. They called Jeremiah a weeping prophet because of what he saw. Most of what he made was beyond him. Most times he couldn't but weep. Now we're going to enter into the area of the vision. The vision that was given to him, the first vision. What were those first visions? But there are two visions that Yahweh asked him, what do you see? What do you see? Can you reveal what you see? from verse 11. Let's hear him. Then Yahweh said to me, "Look, Jeremiah, what do you see?" And I replied, "I see a branch from an almond tree." And Yahweh said, "That's right. And it means that I am watching, and I will certainly carry out all my plans." What is the almond tree? Israel is captured as tree, olive tree in some cases. So, in fact, Apostle Paul used olive tree to qualify Israel in Romans chapter 11. When the Gentiles thought that they have replaced Israel, Apostle Paul said, no, Israel is still there. Only that some branch of it got ruined. They got themselves messed up. They sinned against Yahweh. So Yahweh now had to cut them off. But someday, in the later days, Yahweh is going to bring them back and they will be restored. So Apostle Paul made use of that language, Israel as olive tree. Here we see almond tree. And Yahweh asked him, what does he see? As he was watching, he said he saw almond tree. And here we can deduce that what Jeremiah was told by Yahweh is that you are seeing my people, I am watching over them. My people are like the almond tree you see. Almond tree is depicted in Hebrew language. Almond is watching. Now, Yahweh was watching this tree, Israel, for good and for bad, for evil and for restoration. If they come back to Yahweh, if they return, Yahweh will not destroy them. Rather, he will restore them. But if they continue their own ways, Yahweh is going to handle them his own way. He's going to destroy them. So that is verses 11 and 12. 13 to 16, Yahweh gave him another vision, a second vision. And it was a vision of pot of boiling water spilling from the north. Then Yahweh spoke to me again and asked, what do you see? What do you see now? Verse 13. Then Yahweh spoke to me again and asked, what do you see now? And I replied, I see a pot of boiling water spilling from the north. Yes, Yahweh said, for terror from the north will boil out of the people of this land. Listen, I am calling the armies of the kingdoms of the north to come to Jerusalem. I, Yahweh, have spoken. When Yahweh make a statement and in conclusion he said, I, Yahweh, I have spoken. That is asserting his authority. That is putting down his signature to what he said, that it will come to pass. Two visions reveal two things. One, these people are watching over them. Watching them if they will repent. Watching them if they will return back to Yahweh. Watching them, if they do well, they will be restored. They will live in the land. They will not be plucked out. They will not be, destroyed. They will not be torn down or overthrown. But if they continue to rebel, they will disappear. The people from the north. Here, in this second vision, the pot of boiling water is Babylon. Yahweh was telling Jeremiah that he has a nation up north, up northern part of Judah. The map of Israel where Judah is within the south, but up north of Israel, you find Babylon. So Yahweh had prepared them. At times, Yahweh will call them rod of his anger, rod of his wrath. Assyria was, called, or that term was used for them. Yahweh was always keeping such wraths against Israel because of their rebellion. So we see it here reflected that Yahweh is watching them to use nations that hate them to tempt them, to pull them out from the land. That's why Yahweh talked about tearing down, destroying, and overthrow. But Yahweh said, I'm watching them. What is going to be their reaction? Now, let's look at what Yahweh said concerning the pot that was boiling, the pot from the north that was spilling. That pot will spill all over Judah. Nowhere in the land will be spared. They will set their thrones at the gates of the city of Jerusalem. They will attack its walls and all the other towns of Judah. I will pronounce judgment on my people for all their evil doing, for deserting me and burning incense to other gods, idols, Baals. Here, Yahweh has here opened up what the quarrel is all about, what the problem, what headache Judah was giving to him. He said the problem of all of them mainly is deserting Yahweh, separating themselves from Yahweh to another. This is what is called prostitution, living adulterous life. When Israel leave Yahweh for another deity, that is adulterous behavior. That is prostitution. Book of Hosea was clear about that. Whoredom, committing whoredom. Yahweh hates it. There are so many sins they committed. But sin of idol worship is a sin that outwits other sins. It's a sin that amplifies all the sins we can read about in the scriptures. It's a dangerous sin. Sin of idol worship. It touches other sins. It metamorphoses into other areas of evil behavior, wicked behavior. I will pronounce, verse 16, I will pronounce judgments on my people for all their evil, for deserting me and burning incense to other gods. Yes, they worship idols made with their own hands. I'm going to explain that as we go along. If we understand chapter 1 very well, we will understand all other writings or the chapters of the book of Jeremiah. The anger of Yahweh here is that it's not that Satan is commanding them. It's not that Satan built idol or the kings of Babylon or nations built idol or walked idle and asked them, commanded them to bow to them. No. If it had happened that way, Yahweh will fight for them. Yahweh will make sure that they will not be pulled out from their land. They will not be scattered. But this is, Yahweh is here telling us that it is their own making. Their heart desire. They craved for it. They loved it. They had appetite for it. You're going to see that most times when Yahweh talk about idol, is the people, the very, very people that go after idol. Satan has not bounced on anybody and said, you must, if you don't worship me, I will kill you. No. Satan has never done that. Not even when Yeshua came into this world. He wanted to lure Yeshua to worship him, to bow to him. Yeshua presented the Bible, the passage where it was written that we must worship Yahweh and Yahweh only must we serve. That was what stopped Satan from, presenting other conditions or other goodies that would have lured or influenced Yeshua to listen to him. What Satan does is just to influence. He will present his case and allow the person to make a choice. Verse 17. Get up and prepare for action. Go out and tell them everything I tell you to say. Do not be afraid of them, or I will make you look foolish in front of them. When you ask us to go, it's better we stop struggling. Like Moses. Moses was asked to go. Moses began to struggle. Moses began to give excuses. We love giving excuses to Yahweh. At times, what caused that is we're overwhelmed with the worldly lusts, worldly life. And here is Yahweh trying to bail us out, trying to bring us from the mud, from pollution, from the world that is completely, taken away from him, removed. But the more he calls us, many times, the more we give excuses, the more we tend to tell him we know better and we can handle the situation. And in that situation, Yahweh is at times get angry. As in the case of Moses, at a point, Yahweh got angry with Moses. Here, Yahweh was almost getting angry with Jeremiah, but he told him, you must, because before you were in your mother's womb, I knew you. Do not be afraid of them, or I will make you look foolish in front of them. If we struggle, if we pretend we can do it on our own, if we shy away, if we want to be wishy-washy, if we want to pretend we know what we are doing or we can do it by our own will, our own wisdom, Yahweh will remove that wisdom, his wisdom, his anointing. Once his anointing goes away, the person cannot even preach or speak. And when the person will be preaching or speaking, the person will be making mistakes, and the person will be ridiculed by those whom he is trying to present the message. So the message is Yahweh's message. Authority to preach is his own. The power to deliver, it is his own. The grace for somebody to present the Yahweh's word so that the word will be heard. Whether they hear or they don't hear, at least the people will be afraid. At times, the people may want to chase you because they are afraid. The word of Yahweh is fighting them. That's why the word of Yahweh is like a rod. It's like a hammer. It's like fire in the bosom of those that is given to hear. At times they don't want to take it. They want to pursue you, but Yahweh will give you all that you need to withstand them. You will hear how Yahweh is going to protect Jeremiah here, because it's not easy matter to deal with sin. It's like in this world we live today, dealing with sin is the most Herculean task. Dealing with sin, handling sin, whatever sin. For instance, corruption. Do you know that corruption fights those who fight corruption? If you say today you are going to fight corruption, look at what is happening globally. I was reading a particular newspaper this morning. How nations are really in a mess. Look at economic meltdown all over the world. Why? The capitalists, the globalists want to siphon, want to take all the monies in the world, all the riches, all the wealth to themselves. And they want to bring all the masses down to the bottom. They want everybody to, to be follow, kind of under their beck and call. Whatever they say, we have to follow them. We have to be sheep following them. They have to be our master. So they want to siphon everything. That is corruption. It's corruption because most of the wealth are stolen from the people, from the poor of poor. They reach themselves. That's corruption. How will you find that? And that's why you see politicians, when politician A, politician B come on board, before you know it, it's overthrown, it's replaced. Why? Because there is a fight going on. The capitalists, the globalists want to hold the power of money, power of wealth. And the poor want as much as possible to at least have something to eat. Look at the energy all over the world. The prices of energy is skyrocketing. They want to heat their houses. Those in the temperate areas, they want at least to get certain amenities like air conditioner to help themselves in the heat. They can't afford it. Those in the humid areas, they want to, heat their houses. They can't afford it. So that this struggle. So the masses now want to stand against them, particularly the workers. They want to stand to say, oh, we will not agree. Government, you must listen to us. As a result, when they cry and cry, they have to change government. They have to change government. So in all this going on all over the world, what is happening is that corruption has developed big giant head. There is no way you can curtail it. It becomes a problem. So in the case of prophets trying to deal with the issue of sin in nations, in a country, who do you confront? You see the leaders that are there? Are you fighting the leaders? Can you fight the leaders? Can you fight the powerful, the wealthy people? Can you fight the masses who are used to the kind of lifestyle? So this is the kind of thing Jeremiah found himself into. And all the prophets, not only prophets, pastors, teachers, those that Yahweh called, that is what is happening in their lives. And that's why they are like weeping babies. And that's why at times when Yahweh called them, it's like they're struggling. And somebody will say, at times you look at them, you say, they're not making inroads, they're not achieving much. What much do you want them to achieve? You, who is saying he's not achieving much, is still where you are. He's calling you. Yahweh is calling you through them. You're not budging. You're not helping yourself to come out of the trouble which you find yourself, which Yahweh is calling us out. So the position Jeremiah found himself in the midst of his brethren is terrific. Sin. I'm going to look at the reason why it is situated as what Yahweh is going to use to judge them. Verse 18. For see, today I have made you strong. Yahweh had to come out and tell Jeremiah, for you to fight this fight, because it's a battle, to fight sin, to fight wickedness, to fight corruption, to destroy iniquity, to pull it down, it's something that is going to be difficult. And at the end of the day, if the sin is not removed, the people will go down with the sin. The people will be pulled down with the sin. The people will be destroyed with the sin. The people will be checked out with the sin. But the one that Yahweh is sending has to be strong to do that. He said he should be strong, that he has fortified him. He said, let me take that verse again, 18. For see, today I have made you strong like a fortified city that cannot be captured. I'm going to explain this a bit more. Like an iron pillar or a bronze wall, you will stand against the whole land of Judah, the kings, officials, priests, and people of Judah. You see the task Jeremiah is given. See the task Jeremiah is given. Jeremiah was told to pull these people down, to destroy them. And Yahweh is telling him, be strong to do this. I have fortified you as a walled city. I have fortified you. Because you are going to fight kings, you are going to fight officials of the kings and the officials of the land, you are going to fight the priests, you are going to fight the people. Is it happening today? Exactly, it's happening today. That's what is happening today. If you are called to speak the truth, if you are called to preach the gospel of truth, you'll be a target. They will target you. They'll pursue you. And they catch up the person, they put him behind bars. It's happening across the world. They will fight you, but they will fail. For I am with you, and I will take care of you. I, Yahweh, have spoken. This is chapter 1. Just read it. But let us do a bit of emphasis in what we have just read in chapter 1. Reason for judgment. What are the reasons for the judgment? Number 1, it has been identified that sin of idolatry is the main issue. Sin of idolatry. Sin of forsaking Yahweh. 3, sin of worshiping idols, things their hands have made. That's what Yahweh said. They pursued idol, Baal, made of wood and stone, made of all kind of things, images they were bowing to. As a result, they forsook Yahweh, pursuing those idols. Yahweh said they made them with their hands. That is the pain in the heart of Yahweh. They were not compelled. They were not commanded. They were not pursued at gunpoint to bow, to worship those idols. Rather, they made it, they took time, molded it, carved it in any shape, all those objects. That was the cause of the trouble. That's why judgment was staged. Judgment was pronounced. And that's why Jeremiah was fitted with the word of Yahweh that has authority of Yahweh to destroy them. It was sin of idols more than any other that broke the covenant between Yahweh and his people. Why do Yah punish his people for idolatrous sin? Why? Why do the people of Yahweh receive punishment from Yahweh because of adulterous sin? Yahweh punishes his people because they deliberately, mark that word, they deliberately worship idols, images, wood and stone, molded objects made with their hands. Now this is the catch. Satan do not make the images or objects and force them upon people. Rather, he suggests and influences them to make idols themselves. Or sometimes Satan may ask them to bow and worship him directly, as in the case of Matthew chapter 4, 8 to 10, where Yeshua was called by Satan to worship him, that is going to give him the whole earth, the wealth, the riches, the prosperity, everything of the earth. Just kneel down, worship me, everything will be yours. Then Yeshua said, no, it is written. Yahweh says, me alone, Yahweh and Yahweh alone, you must worship, and him must serve. That was what stopped Satan. Because if we don't know the word, because Yeshua never had that crave in him for material things. Because Satan will not just ask you to come and worship him ordinarily, just like that. He will give you gifts. He will make promises. He will, do so many things to convince the person. As in the case of Adam and Eve, he told them, you are going to be gods. You are going to be like the one that made you. And they were happy. They were jumping up. They said, oh, your eyes has been blind. Your eyes is going to open. You will know good and bad. Yahweh hid good from you. You will know what good is. You know what bad is. They were elated. They were happy. That is what is happening to every man. Satan is very trickish. He can't force you, but he will give you the goodies. Present the goodies. Then you'll be left to make a choice. Yahweh will always allow you to make your own choice. Satan will always allow the individual to make his or her choice. So nobody is forced to do anything. And that is why judgment is coming. That is why judgment is placed there based on your choice. If the choice of the person goes contrary to the word of Yahweh, judgment will fall. If the choice of the person rejects the offer to sin, the person is going to be rewarded. And Yahweh is going to praise the person, lift the person, and praise the person. If it were Satan making the images and forcing the people to bow to idols, Yahweh would fight for them immediately. The people make the choice themselves to mold idols and to worship those idols they make. They have the free will to choose what they want. To obey or disobey is in their hands. E.g., in Exodus 32, 1 to 14, we read about the calf they made in the wilderness. It was their choice. It was their free will. They say, Moses have left us. We don't know what have befall of him. For these 40 days, let us make calf. Let us make idol, Baal. And they call it Yahweh. So that was what brought them out from Egypt. And to worsen it, they said, let this idol take them back to Egypt. And Yahweh saw it. Yahweh said, Moses, have you seen what your people are doing? Go down to them. See with your eyes. The people that I made covenant with, they have broken the covenant. Here we are going to see how Yahweh charged Judah, how he told them that they have broken the covenant. Israel keep on breaking the covenant. Are we doing the same thing today? It's worse today. It's worse today. In Revelation 13, we heard about the beasts that will cause the people to make a great statue of the first beast, so that every human being will be made to bow to the statue, to the image. People will be made to bow. The Bible said small and great, rich and poor, free and slave. There will be a promise to effect that. They will be told, if you take the mark of the beast, you will have everything. Government of the day will give you everything you want. You'll be able to buy, you'll be able to sell, you'll be able to travel, you'll be able to do every engagement, whatever you want. Government will give to you. As the Bible is predicting, when this will be happening, people will literally not be working. So everybody will depend on government. Work will be taken away from people's hands. Already today, our eyes are seeing how they're going to achieve this. Majority of the works will be handled by machine. Robots will be producing food, driving people, and maybe flying aircraft and so on. At the end of the day, people will live in enjoyment. Goody, 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 goody. The world. There's something I saw yesterday. They are showcasing how the world we are entering is going to be. Cruise. Enjoy yourself. They are building Eldorado in the world. They are planning for the world. They are planning and planting now. It's going to be a crazy world. World of enjoyment. And that is what, you see, when Bible said that only 144,000 of Israelites at that time will stand, they will not bow to them. And that is a very few number. Yeshua said when he returns, would he see faith in this earth? That tells you that the world we are entering, or the future, of this world is very, very bleak. Bleak in the sense that the saints are not going to find it easy. But how would they overcome? We have to start learning. We have to now be listening to Yahweh. This is our history. Bible is our history. We have to learn what transpired in the past, because there is nothing that is happening now that hasn't happened before. Though at the extreme end of time, the worst things, the history never identified, may come on board. They may be thrown at us, but how will we react to them? How will we overcome them? By still understanding what our fathers were told, how they dealt with their past. Then Yeshua said he's going to give us, even tell us the new things that has not been informed, we have not been told or been taught through his spirit. So that's how we are going to overcome. So if we are not learning now, how will the spirit come to tell you things, new things? You won't even believe the spirit. You won't even know. You won't even understand. Satan worship is achieved through religious doctrines and commandments. This is the reason you must avoid religions of this world. Avoid religions at all costs. Few weeks ago, we talked about who we are. We looked about the religions of the world. Judaism are there. Out of Judaism, there is this creation of other religions that swung out. Catholicism, for instance, and call them Christianity in that angle. Then come Islam that came out from Catholicism. Then there is this people of the narrow way, which is called people of the way, people of the covenant, that we find ourselves. Now, if we are not careful, because all others are like winds, swinging winds, overflowing tides. Their power is so much that if one is not careful, it's like a flood. The Bible presents it as a flood. The floods, whatever they are carrying, may sweep away those who are in the narrow way, those who are in the covenant way. And that's why we must be very, very strong. Our eyes must be opened for us to understand what is religion, so that the antics of religion, the arms of religion, the power of religion, the influences of religion will not touch us, will not, undercut us. Otherwise, somebody will fall. And once somebody falls, if somebody that has known him falls, it's difficult to rise, unless by his grace. They are set up by Satan for his worship. That is religion. He set up religions for his worship. Yahweh didn't promise that Jeremiah would escape being attacked, but that he would help him prevail against his attackers. In this world, Yahweh never said to us, or Yeshua never said to us, trouble will not touch us, trouble will not reach us, or sickness or disease will not reach us. But by following him, by listening to him, by serving him, by doing what he commands us to do, he will help us to escape. He will help us to overcome. He will help us to outwit our attackers and be freed. Indeed, that promise came true for Jeremiah. Yahweh helped him to prevail against his attackers. Jeremiah prevailed over his enemies and saw the fulfillment of his prophecies, thus proving him to be a true prophet of Yah. Deuteronomy chapter 18, verse 22. What is Deuteronomy 18, 22 saying? Yahweh gave us example of who a true prophet is. A true prophet is one who speaks the word of Yahweh, and when he says a thing, it must surely come to pass. That was what happened in the case of Jeremiah. And Yahweh says, if somebody says a word or speak anything in the name of Yahweh and it didn't come to pass, that means it's not said from Yahweh. Yahweh has not said it. That statement or word or pronouncement will be false. That is from false prophets. Deuteronomy 18, verse 22. If the prophet speaks in Yahweh's name, but his prediction does not happen or come true, you will know that that Yahweh did not give that message. That prophet has spoken without my authority and need not be feared. So that is how to identify a prophet. Check whether the word will come to pass. Check the best and closest way of checking, number one, whether it's what was said come to pass. Now, another way is checking through the fruits, because every word spoken has fruit. And the best way as children of Yahweh, as covenant people, to understand what is the fruit in a word is to check whether it is by law. It was spoken through the law or testimony. If it is not through the word of Yahweh, then you now know that it's from somebody's mind or imagination, and such cannot come true. So check out for the fruits. The word of Yahweh gives us the fruits, because the fruit is in the spirit. The spirit is the carrier of the fruits of the word of Yahweh. Now, Jeremiah is given authority. A prophet must have authority. Pastor must have authority. Teacher must have authority. Those who are teachers or preachers or carriers of the word of Yahweh have authority from the word of Yahweh, and it's called anointing. And that's why Yahweh says, I will put my word in your mouth. What you say must come to pass. Yahweh emphasized that in the early verses of chapter 1. Today, I have made you strong like a fortified city that cannot be captured, like an iron pillar or a bronze wall. You will stand against the whole land, the kings, the officials, priests, and the people of Judah. They will fight you, but they will fail, for I am with you, and I will take care of you. Verses 18 and 19 in that chapter 1. Now, what is the message in chapter 1? You can see how we have dwelt in chapter 1 up till now. What is the message? What lessons do we learn? What are we expected to grab in this chapter 1? To those Yahweh called, whether apostle, pastor, prophet, evangelist, or teacher, he equips them and works with them as he did with Jeremiah and other prophets. Here are some of the lessons this study presents to us, including up to the last chapter of the book of Jeremiah. Gives us hints of what Yahweh is doing with his people and how we are called, to hold and to use the word of Yahweh to do his bidding. When we study the Bible, we are not only studying ancient history, we are studying ourselves. We are really studying who we are as people of Yahweh. That is the reason for Torah class. That is the reason for what we are doing this night. 2, just as Jeremiah was set apart before he was born, as we see in verse 5, so are we. You may say, am I a prophet? You may not be a prophet. You may not be a teacher. You may not be an evangelist. But Yahweh may have called you in one particular portfolio, in one particular area. You may have been given a gift. Whatever gift Yahweh gives to you, whatever that gift is, you are set apart. You are set apart in the sense that Yahweh's eyes is on you. Yahweh walks with you. Yahweh interacts with you. And that's why we must be clean, inside and outside at all times. Just as Jeremiah was given gifts and talents even when he was in the womb, so are we. Number 3. Number 4. Just as Jeremiah felt inadequate to carry out Yah's commission, as we see in verse 6, so should we. Number 5. If we enter Yah's service with self-confidence, we will not bear spiritual fruit. Our confidence must be in Yahweh alone. If we enter into the service of Yahweh with our own mindset, with our own thought, with our own wisdom, with our own power, with our own energy, we will not go far. We won't go far. And we won't even be doing such with authority and power and fruitfulness that may result. We may be doing that on the flesh, and that is not allowed. That's why when Yahweh called Jeremiah, he told him, I have put my words in your mouth. I have filled you. I have walled you round. I have fortified you as a walled city. So our faith must be in Yahweh. Our confidence must be in Yahweh. Our trust must be in Yahweh. Just as Jeremiah was appointed over nations, as we see in verse 10, so are we. See Matthew 20, 19 to 20. Go ye into the world and preach the good news. Preach this good news of the kingdom, baptizing them in the name of Yeshua. What can be greater than that assignment? Is it not the same assignment given to Jeremiah? He sent 10. Why was it that one person was called at a time? Jeremiah, Isaiah, Ezekiel. That is only the persons that we are ready, Yahweh can lay hands on. At times in a nation, in a community, it's difficult for Yahweh to lay hands in one person. It's as bad as that. It's not always easy. And you say, there are not many. You always struggle at times to see one person. You're talking about many. May Yahweh help us. In Mark chapter 16, 15 to 17, we are given the assignment. Go and preach the good news. Great Commission, the work of the Great Commission. Number 7, those who faithfully proclaim Yah's word and obey his commandments have a spiritual authority greater than any power on earth. I say, how? You can ask how. That is true. Spiritual authority. We are not talking about physical authority. We are talking about spiritual authority. What a child of Yahweh does in the spiritual realm, if our eyes is to open to see, we will marvel. But at times we are lazy to be inspired. We are lazy to draw close to Yahweh for us to be inspired. Because once you are inspired, once the Spirit of Yahweh empowers you, you yourself, you'll be seeing the hand of Yahweh working in you, achieving great results. But all the result is from him. Number 8, and just as Jeremiah was challenged to get himself ready, to commit himself totally to Yahweh, as we read in verse 17, so are we. And if we commit ourselves to obey Yahweh, we shall also receive from Yahweh the same promise that Jeremiah received. Yahweh said, I am with you, and I will take care of you. What a promise. I am with you. I will take care of you. And that is what fires somebody to do the work. It's enormous authority. That is, Yahweh is backing us up. Yahweh is behind us. Yahweh authorizes us to speak, to preach, to declare, to pray, to, ask anything in his name. Through Yeshua Messiah, ask anything through him, we will receive. That is the authority. As we study this marvelous book, may Yahweh speak to us as we speak, just like Jeremiah speak. Yahweh will empower. Yahweh will equip. Yahweh will impact. Yahweh will command his word inside us, and we will achieve great things. We will achieve noble things. Yahweh will help us to shine in our communities, in the nation, wherever we are, and his work will be done. Will bear fruit, and we will give him glory for obedience. May that be our portion. May that be our lot as we continue to put our eyes in this history of Israel, in his word, which Torah made explicit for us to draw close to him and to know those things that are hidden. The days we are heading is pregnant. Only him can unfold. Only him can educate. Only him can guide us. Only him can open our eyes to see, to hear, to understand what is going on around us, and to declare. Because whatever we declare as we go on, even obstacles, they must give way, and we prevail against whatever situation that will inhibit us. May our Father continue to power us and to help us reach our goal and make it into the kingdom in Yeshua's name. Hallelujah. Praise Yahweh. Right. Let's keep it as within this chapter 1 at the moment. By next week, Yahweh will help us. I intend to do it topically instead of chapter by chapter. But if the Spirit says we will take it chapter by chapter, all well and good. Because Jeremiah, if we understand Jeremiah, it's just like reminding us what we learned from other prophets. All of them had the same message, though they differ by certain level of extra wisdom, knowledge, or information that Yahweh gave to them. So they were all speaking from the same, wisdom of Yahweh's word, which was to deal with sin. But where they begin to deal with sin, the sin cannot be removed. The sin cannot be taken away. The people will go down with the sin. That is, Yahweh will tear them down, and will not build them up until he is satisfied that he will restore them. And as we will see, on Israel, Judah, all of them were scattered. All now, everywhere, they are completely turned upside down, in shreds. And gradually, we are seeing reflection. We are seeing signs of Yahweh returning to look for his people. And he wants to begin the work of restoration. In these latter days is the work of restoration. But before he will restore, he will destroy everything that stands on his way. And what stands on his way is the same sin. So he will deal with those sins. He will take them away. Those that are carrying them, that do not want to drop them, do not want to repent, he will tear them, he will destroy them, remove them, and he will open the way for his people, those who are obeying, to return to him. That's how Israel is going to be restored. And at the time this will be happening, the whole world will be agog, in trouble, in tribulation, in wrath of Yahweh, the anger of Yahweh. The whole world will be in real stress, the world will be upside down. before Israelites will be restored. Because at the end, it's not just Israel, the entire world. And that's why the message was to Jeremiah, you have to preach to the king. You have to preach to nations, not only Israel, to nations, kingdoms. So the whole kingdoms of the world is going to, get it hot. They are going to be judged. Judgment will cut across. It's not only Israel now, but the entire nations of the world will receive it. And Yahweh bless you.